Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a career that's close to my heart, one that's all about nurturing young minds in a way that goes beyond the typical classroom. We're talking about becoming a Steiner School Teacher.
That's right. It's definitely a unique approach to education.
Totally. And lucky for us, we've got RoleCatcher's in-depth career guide and interview guide for Steiner teachers to guide our deep dive today.
These guides are awesome. They're packed with insights that go way beyond the usual job description stuff, which is exactly what our listeners need, right? They want to make a real difference in education, not just apply for any old teaching job.
So true. Before we get into the details of interview questions and all that, I want our listeners to really picture what it's like to be a Steiner teacher.
Mhm.
Imagine instead of rows of desks, you walk into a classroom and kids are building wooden swords in one corner.
I love that.
Yeah, and then others are painting with watercolors, and over there they're learning math through storytelling. That's the beauty of Steiner education.
It's incredible. You hit the nail on the head. It's about engaging the whole child. Head, heart, and hands.
Exactly. It's holistic.
Mhm.
But we should be real too. Finding the perfect teaching spot in a Steiner school can be tough, kind of competitive even.
Yeah, there's no denying that it's still a niche field, which is why these role catcher guides are so valuable. They don't just tell you what the job is, they tell you how to stand out when you're applying. That's what we're all about here, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dive in. The career guide gives us a glimpse into what a Steiner teacher actually does day to day. And, well, it's not your average teaching gig. We're not talking just lecturing from a textbook here. Think hands-on involvement in everything, from putting on plays with the kids to, like, baking bread with them.
It's true. What's fascinating is that these activities aren't just like extras, or fun Fridays.
Hmm.
They're a core part of how the curriculum works in Steiner education. It reflects that belief that learning should be sensory, connected to nature.
That's so cool. And this hands-on thing isn't just good for the kids either. The guy highlights how this way of teaching builds a strong sense of community in the school. Not just between the kids, but between the teachers and parents too, even the wider community.
Absolutely. It's like this little village all dedicated to raising well-rounded human beings.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And I think that sense of community is a big draw for a lot of teachers, especially those who might be feeling, I don't know, a little disillusioned with mainstream education, with all the standardized testing and stuff.
Right, right. But we've got to be real about the downsides too.
Of course, of course.
That guy doesn't shy away from that. It mentions things like potentially salaries being lower than public schools and the need for constant professional development, all part of the package. So how does someone thinking about this, how do they weigh that?
It's all about, I think, finding that sweet spot where your passion and the practical stuff line up, right? If you're truly drawn to the Steiner philosophy, if the idea of teaching math through music or science through gardening gets you excited, then those downsides might not feel so big because you're making a different kind of impact. It's not just about the paycheck then.
I love that. It's about your values lining up with the work. Makes sense. Okay, so let's say someone's convinced. They're like, this is me. I want to do this. How do they nail that interview? I feel like those can be intimidating.
Oh, absolutely. They can make or break you. And with Steiner schools, it's not just about giving the right answer. They want to see that you get it, that you understand what Steiner education is all about. It's not just liking kids and finger painting.
Right. It's deeper than that. And luckily, these role catcher guides, they've got 9 sample interview questions, which is amazing. So let's break those down and figure out what the interviewers are really trying to get at.
Let's do it.
All right, question number 1. What inspired you to pursue a career in Steiner education? Seems simple, but I bet they want more than just I like kids.
You're totally right. This is your moment to connect on a personal level with them about Steiner. Remember, Steiner education has this deep understanding of how kids develop. It believes in the power of the arts, and there's respect for nature. They want to see that those values click with you too.
So don't just give a generic answer. RoleCatcher suggests telling a story or talking about an experience like an aha moment that made you passionate about this way of teaching. But how much is too much to share? What if my inspiration came from this kind of embarrassing childhood obsession with gnomes from my Steiner kindergarten?
Well, a little gnome love never hurt anyone. But in all seriousness, find that balance. Keep it real, keep it professional. Share a story that shows who you are, but also connects to what Steiner's about. Maybe you saw a documentary on Steiner schools and were blown away, something like that.
Right, like you're intentionally choosing this path, not just applying to any teaching job.
Hmm.
And what I love about these role catcher guides is that they don't just tell you how to answer, they give you follow-up questions that you could ask. Like, turn the tables a little.
Yes. It's such a good strategy. It shows you're curious, that you're thinking ahead. For this question, you could ask, what drew you to this particular school? What keeps you passionate about working here? Shows you care about their experiences too.
That's brilliant. Okay, moving on to question number 2. How do you incorporate the arts into your teaching practice? This has got to be huge for Steiner schools, right?
Absolutely. The arts aren't just another subject in Steiner schools. They're woven into everything. Don't just give them a list of art projects you've done. Show them how you weave art into your teaching.
Right, like paint a picture with your words. RoleCatcher's all about those specific examples. So instead of saying, I heart art, you could say something like, when I teach fractions, I have my students make mandalas using different colored sand. That way, they're seeing parts of a whole, but in an artsy way.
Yes, perfect example. And to take it even further, you could connect the art form you choose back to Steiner principles. You could say, I love using your rhythmy, that movement-based art form that's unique to Steiner education, because it helps with physical coordination, but it also deepens their understanding of language and music. See how that works? You're showing you understand the why behind the art, not just that you do it.
It's like you're speaking their language. Okay, and of course, a follow-up question could be, does this school have a dedicated space for your rhythmy? Or maybe like partnerships with local artists I could get involved with. Again, showing you're already thinking about being part of their community.
You got it. Okay, before we jump into the next question, can I highlight something from the career guide?
Yeah, for sure.
It talks about the different career stages for Steiner teachers, and it's not just about becoming the principal or anything like that.
Oh, right. It's not just about climbing the ladder. They talk about how your responsibilities change as you gain experience, even if you stay in the classroom.
Exactly. So you might start as a beginning teacher, focusing on creating a nurturing space for the kids, supporting the lead teachers. But as you get more experience, you might lead workshops for your fellow teachers, or you could develop the curriculum, even mentor new teachers. There's a lot of room to grow.
And that focus on growth within the role, that's gold for interviews.
Yeah.
Right? Like when they ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Instead of some vague answer, you can talk about those career stages. Be like, I'm excited about maybe leading workshops for my fellow teachers down the line or mentoring new ones. Shows you're invested.
Exactly. You get it. You're not just looking for a job, you're looking to become part of that Steiner community. Okay, question number 3. This one gets to the heart of how Steiner is different. How do you address individual learning needs in a Steiner classroom?
Now, this one I find so interesting because I remember being that kid in school who didn't learn the same way as everyone else. Steiner seems to get that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Steiner knew that cookie cutter stuff doesn't work if you're trying to help each child reach their full potential. It's more than just letting kids learn in different ways. It's about celebrating those differences.
I love that. And that's where RoleCatcher talks about observation and adaptation.
Yeah.
It's not just about teaching a lesson. It's about seeing how each kid is reacting to it and changing things up to fit them. Each kid is on their own little learning journey.
Exactly. So when you answer this question, don't just say, like, I know everyone learns differently. Show them. Tell a story. You could say, I had a student who learned best through movement, kinesthetic learner. So in history class, we did all these movement activities, even acted out historical events, to make it stick.
That's so cool. It's not one-size-fits-all teaching. It's about meeting each kid where they're at. And, gotta love it, RoleCatcher gives you a follow-up question for this one, too. You could ask, do you offer any professional developments specifically on, like, differentiated instruction or learning support? Shows you're ready to keep learning yourself.
Exactly. You're in it for the long haul. And speaking of things we love about Steiner, can I just say, using storytelling and music and movement in the classroom? Genius.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's like those fairy tales come to life. The kids are learning with their whole bodies, not just their brains.
It's that multisensory learning, so important. Mention that in your interview. You could say, I'm really drawn to how Steiner uses movement and music because it gets kids so much more engaged. They connect with the learning on a deeper level. You're showing you get the why, not just the what.
Love it. Okay, back to the interview hot seat. Question number 4 takes us outside. How do you incorporate outdoor education into your teaching practice?
This is a good one. Steiner really gets that nature is the best classroom there is. It's about wonder, exploring, connecting, not just taking the kids out for recess, but making the outdoors part of the lesson.
RoleCatcher says, don't just say you like being outside. Tell them how you actually use it to teach. For example, when we were learning about plants, I took my students on nature walks to gather leaves, identify trees, all that. They got to experience it firsthand.
Yes, perfect. And then you follow that up with, does the school have a garden or maybe a dedicated outdoor learning space where I could do hands-on activities with the kids? Shows you're already picturing yourself there.
You're on fire with those follow-up questions. Okay, question number 5 is interesting. How do you incorporate these Steiner principles of rhythm and routine into your classroom management? This one seems tricky. Doesn't too much routine stifle creativity?
It's a common thought, but Steiner actually felt that having a predictable rhythm makes kids feel safe, secure. It allows them to be more creative, not less.
That's so interesting. So RoleCatcher's saying it's about a flow of the day, consistent times for things, clear transitions. They even give the example of like starting each day with circle time, maybe singing or a story.
Right.
Creates a calm atmosphere.
Yes. Those anchors throughout the day are key. Don't be afraid to get specific when you answer this one. Share a routine you've used that really worked. Like, in my old classroom, we had quiet time after lunch where kids could draw or read. It helped them reset before the afternoon lessons.
It's not about being strict. It's about creating that predictable structure where they can focus and be creative. And here's a good follow-up. How does the school communicate the daily rhythm to parents? Do you send out weekly overviews, or can parents participate in some of the routines?
Love it. It shows you understand that connection between home and school is important. You know, we keep talking about how Steiner values ongoing learning, and the Career Guide has a whole section on that.
It's true. Even if you've been in the Steiner world for ages, there's always more to discover, new ways to grow as a teacher.
Exactly. It's about always wanting to learn more, to refine how you teach. And you can weave that into your interview answers too. Like if they ask about your goals, say something like, I'm committed to professional development, maybe even presenting at conferences or leading workshops for teachers someday.
That's a great point. Shows you're serious about this. Okay, another question coming in hot. How do you approach assessment in a Steiner classroom? This is a big one, especially these days.
Assessment can be a scary word in education, but Steiner does it differently. It's not about the standardized tests or just giving out grades. It's about really understanding each child's journey and helping them grow.
RoleCatcher calls it formative assessment, right?
Right.
So it's using those everyday observations, chats with the kids, their work, to see how they're doing, not just a test score.
Yes. You're invested in their progress. So ditch the I give regular quizzes line. Instead say, I like to use different ways of assessing, like keeping anecdotal records, having student portfolios, parent-teacher conferences. That way, I get a full picture of the child's strengths and what they need to work on.
That makes so much sense. And for that extra oomph, RoleCatcher suggests asking, how does the school make sure that all the teachers are on the same page when it comes to assessment? Are there systems in place to make sure it's consistent and lines up with the curriculum?
Brilliant. Shows you're thinking about the bigger picture, about working as a team. And speaking of teamwork, here's a question about just that. How do you incorporate social justice and sustainability into your teaching practice? This is where those Steiner values really shine.
These are such crucial topics to be talking about with kids, now more than ever. And RoleCatcher gets it. They want you to go beyond just saying, yeah, social justice is important. Give concrete examples.
Exactly. Paint that picture for them. In my classroom, we read books from all different cultures. We talk about fairness and respecting everyone, no matter their background. You're showing them you're not afraid to have those important conversations.
Creating a space where they feel safe to talk about those things, that's huge. And for sustainability, you could mention incorporating recycling in the classroom, using natural materials for art, maybe even organizing an Earth Day event.
I love those ideas. And to show them you're serious about this stuff, ask, does the school have any specific programs or partnerships related to social justice or sustainability that I could get involved with?
It's like you're saying, I'm not just here to teach, I'm here to be part of the solution.
Oh.
Okay, before we get to the last question, I want to highlight something else from the Career Guide. They have this section called Alternative Titles, which I think is so smart.
It's so helpful because job titles can be confusing.
They give the example of Steiner School Teacher as an alternative title for someone with Steiner experience. I had no clue what a Freinet school even was. Turns out they have some things in common with Steiner schools.
Exactly. They both value child-centered learning and hands-on experiences. So even if a school doesn't say Steiner on the label, this section helps you find those hidden gems where your skills would be perfect.
It's all about possibilities. Don't limit yourself. Okay, on to question number 8. Get ready to talk conflict resolution. How do you address conflicts and challenges that arise in a Steiner classroom? Because, let's be real, kids will be kids.
Oh, for sure. But it's all about how you handle those situations, right? Steiner is all about peaceful ways of resolving conflicts. It's not about punishing, it's about repairing and restoring relationships.
RoleCatcher suggests talking about creating a supportive classroom where those conflicts can be talked about openly, teaching kids to communicate how they feel, to listen to each other, and to work together to find a solution.
Exactly. Steer clear of generic answers like, I believe in discipline. Tell a story. Give them an example. You could say, 2 students were fighting over a toy. Instead of just taking it away, I had them each talk about how they felt and what they needed. Then we figured out a solution together that felt fair.
You're teaching them life skills there, not just resolving a one-time argument. And for a follow-up, does the school have any specific programs for conflict resolution, like peer mediation or restorative circles?
You're good at this. Okay, before we tackle the final interview question, let's talk about those awesome AI tools RoleCatcher offers.
Yes. Their CV and resume builder is a game changer, especially in such a competitive job market. Can you break it down for our listeners who might not be familiar with this kind of technology?
It's super easy to use. You upload your resume, then paste in the job description you're interested in. And here's the cool part. The AI looks at both of those documents and figures out the keywords, skills, and experience that match up.
Wow, so it's not just checking for typos.
Nope. It's way smarter than that. It's like having a resume expert who knows exactly what employers are looking for, even if they don't say it out loud.
That's incredible. So it gives you suggestions then?
Yeah. For example, it might say, hey, this keyword pops up a lot in the job description, but it's missing from your resume.
That is so helpful, like having a secret weapon.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's not changing your experiences, just making sure you're showing them off in a way that gets noticed. Okay, ready for that final interview question? It's a good one. How do you collaborate with parents and colleagues to support student learning and development?
This one really gets at the heart of what Steiner is all about. Community. It's more than just a school. It's a whole ecosystem where everyone's working together.
Right. RoleCatcher stresses that it's not enough to just say you get along with people. Show them you're a collaborator, that you can communicate and share your knowledge.
So instead of a vague, I'm a team player, give them a real example. You could say, at my last school, I started a parent-teacher book club where we discussed child development. It was a great way to open up communication and build relationships.
Love that. And how about an example for collaborating with colleagues?
Oh, you could say, I love learning from my fellow teachers. We used to have peer observations where we could watch each other teach and give feedback. It made us all better teachers and brought us closer as a team.
Those are fantastic examples. You're showing them you're there for the right reasons.
And to wrap it up with a stellar follow-up question, does the school have any systems in place to encourage communication and collaboration among teachers, like mentoring programs or professional learning communities?
Brilliant. It shows you're eager to jump in and be part of that collaborative spirit.
Exactly. It's about finding that community that gets you, where your values and your goals line up with theirs.
Totally. And I know we've thrown a lot of info at our listeners today, like unpacking the classroom stuff, mastering those interview questions. It's a lot. You're right. It's a lot to process. And that's why I think it's so smart that RoleCatcher includes that section in their career guide on, like the pros and cons of actually teaching in a Steiner school.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. We kind of skimmed over that.
It's easy to get caught up in how awesome it all sounds, but you got to go into this with open eyes, right?
100%. Being realistic is key.
We've talked about how rewarding this career path can be nurturing creativity, connecting with nature, sparking that love of learning in kids. But there are challenges too, like those salary things we mentioned, the need to always be learning as a teacher. And let's be real, some people just don't get Steiner education.
It's true. You got to be prepared for that. But it comes back to what we keep saying. It's about those trade-offs. Are those downsides worth it to you?
Exactly. And for some people, they absolutely are. Seeing a child thrive in a Steiner environment, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But you got to make that choice knowing what you're signing up for.
Absolutely. Listen to your gut. Amazing advice from our expert. And I think that's a great place to wrap up this deep dive. Don't just take our word for it. Do your own research. Check out some Steiner schools. Talk to the teachers.
Couldn't agree more. Find the path that lights you up, that uses your unique gifts. And who knows, maybe Steiner education is it.
Maybe it is. And we're here to cheer you on. A huge thank you to RoleCatcher for these awesome guides. Be sure to check out the show notes. We'll link them there so you can explore them further.
And thanks to all of you for joining us on another deep dive. We hope you learned a ton and feel inspired.
Keep those minds curious and those hearts open. Until next time, everyone.